This weekend in the game, there's so much on it.
Liverpool have to win this. This ain't a fluke, this ain't a joke thing. We are serious.
Right now, we are better than Liverpool. We need these 3 points.
We can come out of here with 3 points. We can come out of here with something at least.
They got to come here and play like champions. Sometimes it's another team's time.
Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Welcome to a tactical preview show, not a regular feature on the channel. Maybe if that's something you want to see more, if you like the video, let us know in the comments. We can maybe make that happen. But look, we thought this was such a big game that we even touched on it at the end of Tactical Insight, Graham and I. We touched on what we would do in terms of starting 11 for the Liverpool game. Obviously, with that whole week's break, there's a lot of time for Arteta to ponder, look in trading, how's Trossard doing, how's Jesus doing, what do you do in the left-back situation? A lot of things to consider. And I think we just wanted to break down here what Arsenal can do, need to do, might have to do to beat Liverpool. For the first time at Anfield since 2012, a place that we've really struggled to get wins, results, even decent performances. It's really been a difficult hunting ground ever since Jurgen Klopp arrived. And I want to look at the Arsenal 11 that beat Liverpool at the Emirates 3-2. They managed to finally get a win over Jurgen Klopp. We've been doing it a little bit in cups and community shields and all that. But now it's about seeing how we can actually go to Anfield and finally get a result. And I think the first thing I wanted to do, here's the 11 that beat Arsenal, beat Liverpool at the Emirates. You've got Tomiyasu at left back. You've got the front three that was a regular feature before the World Cup. Obviously, the squad looks a little bit different now, and there's injuries to consider as well. But the first thing I want to do is touch on other teams that have had success against Liverpool this year. Now, look, let's just say it now. Liverpool haven't had the season that everyone expected them to have. They're sitting, I forgot, was it 7th, 8th, something like that? They've had a lot of poor results. 3-0 at Brighton, 3-0 at Wolves. Results that you really think this is not the Liverpool we know and that we've become accustomed to the last few years, but it's still a very dangerous Liverpool team. So how have they had success? Well, I think the first place to start is with Manchester City's win against them the other day. And what I've got here is the system that Pep Guardiola used. Yes, it's going to look very familiar to a lot of you who watch Arsenal all the time, who maybe tune into the Tactical Insight show and the kind of things that Graham and I like to touch on. But it is that 3-2-5 shape with John Stones as a holding midfielder. Again, you kind of expect him to be maybe playing right back or inverted, but he was very central. It very much felt like a base two. And what you had with this system, and there's a lot of great analysis on the weekend from it, is you had this box formation. You had, or box midfield, should I say, of Stones, Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne. Now, the way Guardiola went about it was essentially going, I'm going to put you in the formation. I'm going to lay out the formation in the way you're going to look on the pitch. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes there will be other kind of base formations, defensive formations, that then kind of moves around and is fluid to find a sort of a certain shape when you're in attack. Maybe it's different to when you're in defence, but Man City was so dominant for a lot of that game. This is pretty much how their 11 looked. Now, let's look at another team that has success against them, and that is Brighton. And the result I'm going for isn't their most recent, but it's actually earlier in the season when they drew 3-3 at Anfield. Now this time it's a 3-4-3. It's your wing backs, March and Estupinian. But again, what you had is in possession, they get forward, and you've got your 3, you got your 2, you got your 5, and then what does that lead to? The same box midfield, Trossard and Gross. Very tight next to Welbeck, central areas, in pockets, Caicedo and McAllister, the distributors from deep as well. And then Graham Potter, I know, who thought I'd be talking about him today? Hasn't, obviously he's lost his job at Chelsea. Very few actual good results in his time there, but one of them was actually a performance and a draw at Anfield in a 0-0. And again, a very similar thing. Gallagher and Mount, you can see them there. And if we just move it along, very similar system. You've got your 3-2-5, and then you've got the box there as well. And Liverpool just drew at Stamford Bridge as well. I'm going to bring it up here. This time slightly different, but it's all about a compact midfield. It's all about overrunning Liverpool in that area of the pitch. And again, this time they've gone, though, for Kante, Enzo and Kovacic. So not so much a 2 with a 2 in front. This is a 3 and then a front 2. But the nature of Havertz and Felix being number 10s in the past, players that have played wide, players that have played in midfield. It did mean that you had Chelsea getting overloads in other ways, with your wing-backs getting forward, and then moments like this, where Felix would drop wide, Kante, we know, likes to press high up the pitch, and you still had the box forming in very different ways as well. But it's all about dominating midfield with Liverpool. It's something they've struggled. Fabinho's not been having the season that he's had in previous years. You know, the comparisons with Rodri, he's been far from that player. Henderson, in and out of the team at times. Is it Harvey Elliott? Is it Keita? They've had injuries to deal with. Is it Thiago? Is it Bajcetic? Now he's injured. Curtis Jones started the last game. They've had issues in that very crucial area to Klopp's system, Liverpool, and teams have exploited that. And I think that box shape in midfield has really been a problem for them. Listen, they've lost to other formations, they've lost to other systems. They're not having a good season, Liverpool. But you know, Real Madrid didn't, I don't think, beat them in this kind of way. But this is definitely something I've noticed, and it plays into Arsenal's hands. So it gets you thinking, well, what should Arsenal do against Liverpool in terms of their shape and system? Now, this is the 11. Of course, Tomiyasu started at left back, and what a job he did on Mo Salah. We talked about that in the last video. We talked, in the breakdown on Tactical Insight, about how Tomiyasu had such a very kind of unique role against Salah, and he dealt with him brilliantly. But I think Arsenal have become even more accomplished in what they're doing in terms of this 3-2-5 build-up shape they have, with Zinchenko coming into midfield. So the obvious question is, okay, well, do you then bring Tomiyasu out and go for Kieran Tierney? Now, Kieran Tierney's a like for like. That's going with the kind of same, I guess, setup that we did at the Emirates in terms of worrying about Salah. And look, his output has been brilliant this season, even though he's not always been at his very best. His output's still fantastic. You might want to go for a Tierney, but in reality, I'm going for Zinchenko, because what you get is everything we've talked about so many times on this show. That exact same box shape that you can see there. Partey, Zinchenko, Odegaard, Xhaka. And I dare say that Arsenal has set the trend a little bit for this box midfield shape this season. Guardiola's been doing it a lot more recently. I guess if you're playing a 3-4-3, you kind of get that naturally anyway, with your wing-backs getting high up the pitch. But this is definitely something that has caused Liverpool problems. And I just think Gabriel, actually at Anfield last year, even though we lost 4-0, it sounds crazy to say, he did quite well in the one-on-one duels with Salah. And remember, Tavares was really bombing forward in that game as well. He was an outlet on that side with Smith Rowe, I believe, coming in from the left. So Gabriel's kind of used to doing this job with Mo Salah out on the left-hand side. Yes, it didn't end well in terms of us losing 4-0, but for a lot of that game in the one-on-one duels, he did quite well. So I think you've got to trust Zinchenko as a left-back, who does his defensive duties quite well, actually, to come in and just trust the team to keep doing what they've been doing so well. Now, the other thing that's been a big debate is what you do with the front three, because here I've got Saka, Jesus and Martinelli, and look, how do you leave out Trossard? Hat-trick at Anfield, what's that, 6-7 assists since he signed for Arsenal? Unbelievable return in that sense, and he feels a player that can cause you problems, not only because of his trickery and you know, his goals and all that, but because he can kind of do things out of nothing. I love players, and Pepe had this. You know, for all the criticism of Pepe, he had the ability to do something out of nothing, and I think Trossard is certainly a player that delivers that. A player who can, think of his disallowed goal against Leicester, just cut inside, bam, top corner. Disallowed, shouldn't have been, but he's got that moment in him, Trossard. Yet for all that, I'm still going with this front three of Saka, Jesus and Martin. The reason is their trickery, their ability to dribble and commit players. What do I mean by that? Well, we'll take you back to some stats all the way back in October. Now, this is all pre-World Cup. And remember, October, there's only then a handful of games before we then broke up for the World Cup. So we're talking about 10, 11, 12 Premier League games played here. But this is from The Telegraph, and this is from, I believe, Squawka as well. So Arsenal's dribblers, this includes Jesus, Martinelli and Saka, actually ranked first in the Premier League with 10.6 dribbles completed per game. In the previous seasons, they'd ranked 14th and 17th, 7.8 in each season. Arsenal, they're kind of wide players running at defenders, pulling them apart. The fluidity of that front three, sort of, think of what Jesus did against Bournemouth. The ball's just sort of hoofed up in the air by Ben White. Jesus just sort of bumps the defender, takes a touch, spins, takes out a few players, and then we're in. It just causes complete havoc, and it pulls defenders out of position. And if there's one back four I think you can really go out and have some success with this kind of front three, it is actually Liverpool. Let's find it here. Liverpool defending dribblers. Have a little look at these numbers. Now, what I've got here is the percentile ranking by FBref. I know a lot of people love using FBref. I think some of their stats are fantastic. And we're looking at Liverpool's back four, what I believe to be Liverpool's starting back four, though I have questions whether it will be this back four for the game. What we've got here is dribblers tackled, dribblers challenged, and percentage of dribblers tackled. So how many times you're making a tackle or you're attempting a challenge and you're actually winning the ball off them. And the FBref percentile rankings essentially mean that the closer you are to 100 with these numbers, the better you rank in the Premier League. So essentially, if you're in the 90th percentile, you're in the top 10% for whatever stat we're having a look at here. Now this compares Trent and Robertson to fullbacks and Konate and Van Dijk to centre-backs in the Premier League. So everyone per 90 in the Premier League. That's the crucial thing, per 90. Now Trent Alexander-Arnold actually ranks okay in terms of the 60th, 67th percentile. Konate ranks very well in terms of the 71st and 87th for dribblers tackled and dribblers challenged. But when you look at Van Dijk, he's in the bottom 10%, Robertson the bottom 16% for dribblers tackled. And when you look at the other numbers, 13, 24, 20th and 19th as well, they rank pretty low. We have a front three that statistically matches up nicely, especially on the Saka side and Odegaard as well, that can actually cause problems to Van Dijk and Robertson. And look at some of the goals that they've conceded. Look at how, you know, Saka's running at Van Dijk, isn't he, in that opening goal at the Emirates before he gives it to Odegaard, and then they kill that space off with a through ball to Martinelli. They've got players who can run and commit. And listen, maybe you don't get around them, but you win fouls, you make them uncomfortable, you force them deep. You can apply pressure just by causing havoc. And I think we've got a front three that can do that. And as much as I love Trossard, he doesn't strike that same kind of direct flair kind of fear that Jesus, Martinelli and Saka do. Now you could bring in Trossard a little bit later in the game, of course you can. And he can maybe do things in other ways. He can get into pockets, he can thread through balls, look at his assist for Xhaka in the game against Palace. He can cause havoc in a lot of ways. Look what he did for Jesus' goal as well against Leeds as well, you know, the twisting, the turning. He's got that. That might be a really good tool later in the game where maybe it's 0-0, we need a goal. Maybe we're a goal down and we need a little bit of trickery and magic. Maybe you can find a way of getting all four on the pitch at once. But I just think if you're looking for balance as well, that front three is a front three that I think can hurt Liverpool the most when you look at how they have struggled in terms of engaging with attackers and committing to dribblers, and when you look at what our front three have been doing in that area as well. Now, of course, it's not just about what Liverpool do defensively deep in their half, it's what they do in terms of our third as well. And interestingly enough, Liverpool's pressing has dropped dramatically. When you look at the Premier League rank in the last 4 seasons, 4 tackles in the attacking third, Liverpool have gone from first in 2019-20 to first the season after that to first last season, and now 14th they rank. It's extraordinary that they rank the absolute best for the previous 3 seasons for tackles in the attacking third, but they've dropped down to 14th this season. Their press is not as cohesive, which is why I want Arsenal to be brave and play out the back in this game. And look, I know you're tempting fate, right? Because Liverpool have a history of being brilliant at pressing. Almost one thing you don't want to do is invite the Liverpool press. But I think Arsenal have set a standard this season for themselves, the way they've played, that they can back themselves. They can back themselves to say, Cody Gakpo, Nunes, kind of new to this team, still very good players, but new to this team. Invite them, challenge them, see if you can open the pitch up. And when you do, then your dribblers have a lot more space to attack and you get those one-on-one situations a little bit more. And I think that's a worthy risk when you look at the fact that Liverpool haven't been as cohesive as in previous seasons. You know, when it comes to being a club that are trying to win the ball back high up the pitch. Now, of course, there's things like interceptions as well and stuff like that. But in terms of actually tackling and engaging when players have the ball, they haven't done that as well this season, Liverpool. And I think you've got to respect what they can do, and the high press is definitely something that, look, if you're asking me to predict, I think Liverpool will turn up ready, fired up, raring to go, wanting to make it difficult for Arsenal. This isn't a video to pick out all their weaknesses and say, look what Arsenal do brilliantly and we're just going to beat them. I think they could come out there with a really high press and cause a lot of problems. They did that to United in a lot of ways in the 7-0, but people forget that before the 1-0 that put them 1-0 up, the 1-0 that put them 1-0 up, the Cody Gakpo goal that put Liverpool 1-0 up, Man United had a few chances as well. And, you know, they can be got at, even if they're committing to the press. it does mean that they may be leaving themselves exposed in other areas. So if I'm Arsenal, I really, really think that they should be committing to their game plan, playing out the back as they've done so well all season, and invite that Liverpool pressure. It is high risk, but it could be high reward as well. And of course, when Liverpool do have a sustained spell of possession, let's have a look at it here. Arsenal need to be able to deal with Liverpool's threat and what Liverpool pose as well. And that's many things. That is a lightning front three. Nunes, Gakpo, they all attack space brilliantly. Salah, of course, Diogo Jota, who's back in the team. Luis Diaz, there's rumours he might be in training. And then you've got players that can thread a pass, like Thiago, for example. Elliott, who does have a pass on him. Whether he starts or not remains to be seen. And what I've got here is the goal that opened the scoring for Liverpool against Man United. And it's Gakpo here wide, and he attacks the space before he cuts inside and of course scores. But the thing I really want to highlight in this situation is the way Dalot, and I've just got the players in the black away shirt that Arsenal will be playing in, but Dalot follows Trent all the way inside before he cuts inside and plays that pass, and it's Fred who's actually come from midfield to try and almost defend the fact that Gakpo's there and not leave him completely, alone, and completely unmarked. In this situation, I think Arsenal have had a history of dealing with this differently, because what they've got is Bukayo Saka. Let's just find Bukayo Saka. Where is he? Oh, he's here. So he's one of the players out there. There we go. Bukayo Saka would normally drop into that shape nicely. So when White has to follow Robertson in field, we know Arsenal like to press. We know they like to follow their men around the pitch. Saka's actually always done a very good job, I think, of Stamford Bridge last season. I think of plenty of other games where Saka has dropped to the right wing-back position and covered that area. And when you've got Rob Holding potentially starting at centre-back, it makes sense for that to be more of a back five off the ball, so Saka can drop deep. And if Gakpo comes inside, you've got almost a tight three to deal with a very narrow front three at Liverpool that can cause us problems. That's why I think Arsenal have actually deployed things tactically over this season, and even at times last season, that actually match up quite nicely to Liverpool. But we can't forget the record. We can't forget what this Liverpool group have done over the last 5 years: a Champions League, an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, a Premier League, points tallies that should have won them league titles. They were a very, very, very good group, very experienced group of players that know how to win games, and certainly know how to win games against Arsenal. But I think if we just keep a calm head, we go out there and just calmly play our football and stick to our guns, I actually think we can have some joy. Look, I haven't predicted a win. I went with the 2-2 on Forever Arsenal, but I don't think that's a bad result either. I think we've got to respect what Liverpool can do to hurt us, but I actually think that we've got a history of shapes, systems, tactical approaches that can actually do us some good in this game. Let me know what you think about Arsenal's approach in this game. Let me know what you do about the front three. What would you do about the Salah problem at left back as well? And how do Arsenal match up when it comes to off the ball and dealing with the fact that it's likely going to be Rob Holding starting against Saliba, even though I'm quietly predicting that I think Saliba might be okay for this game. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe to everything AFTV so you get all the coverage ahead of the Liverpool game, during and after as well. And if you like my jumper, go hit the link in the description for all the AFTV merch as well. Big thank you. Come on, Arsenal. Let's go get this massive win.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.